So I literally just talked about this on a live stream I did, but it was at the end of the video, and I wanted to really give this some focused time and attention on its own because it just seems to be very poignant given the crisis that we are all dealing with right now. And I want to talk about this book, Conversations with God, and I'm going to read you a couple passages in the book and tell you how I think this can apply to what we are all experiencing with coronavirus and how maybe we can bring ourselves to have a little bit more perspective about these things. You know, I've talked about the fact that I am a very spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. I do not subscribe to any of the major religions, but I do consider myself to be a highly spiritualized person, and I commune with God in my own way, be that through meditation or ayahuasca or any of those things. You'll probably learn a lot more about that as this channel continues to grow and evolve. But I've been thinking a lot about this book, Conversations with God. It is one of my absolute favorite books. It is a book that I've listened to the audio version multiple times. I have the hardcover version here. I have the ebook pulled up here simply because I wanted to have it on the screen while we were reading it together, so it'd be a little bit different than the hardcover, and I've really poured over the content in this. Now, Conversations with God, it comes out of the same kind of school as Course in Miracles. If you're not familiar with Course in Miracles, it's a big, thick book. I actually have a copy of it downstairs on my coffee table. Big, thick book, just like the Bible. And it provides just a lot of spiritual guidance. It was a book that was written, I believe, in like the 1970s or 80s or something like that. A New Testament of Jesus Christ sort of thing. It was basically the idea of it is, y'all got the interpretation of the New Testament wrong. Let me correct a few things. Listen, again, you can believe this stuff, you cannot, but there's a lot of practical advice that exists in Course of Miracles, and it's something that you really have to study, I think, over a lifetime to truly understand. Marianne Williamson comes out of the Course in Miracles. That's what Marianne Williamson teaches. And there are a lot of books that are based on that. Conversations with God, I believe, comes out of that school of thought. There's also another book I really love called Love is Letting Go of Fear. I recommend this book to a lot of clients. It has very, very practical advice about how to let go of fear and embrace life and embrace the path of love and how that can actually change your experience in work and life, all this stuff. So a couple things coming out of that. And really, this book, though, has been one of my favorite and one of the most relevant books that I've found to give perspective to this whole crazy experience called life. Because here's the thing, I think that it can be very easy to be afraid right now. It can be very easy to look around you and see this world in absolute disarray and not know what to do and feel very uncomfortable and feel very fearful of what might happen next because we just don't know. But if you are able to step back and look at this in context, you're going to be able to see the bigger picture and make much better decisions and frankly, just be a whole lot happier in the meantime. And I believe that this book offers some perspective on that just to consider. Maybe you don't believe what I believe. Maybe you don't even believe in God. Maybe you're an atheist. That's fine. I'm not trying to shove my religious views or my spiritual views. Geez. Spiritual views on anyone. Believe what you want. But I do want to share this book. Now, to have some context for this book, this was actually written as a channeled experience, as a channeled conversation where the author, Neale Donald Walsch, felt like he, as he was writing this book, was actually having a conversation with God. And you're going to see how this manifests in the book, where it is actually a back and forth. He asks a question and God gives him an answer. So I just want to read a little bit of the introduction to give you some context here. We are about to have an extraordinary experience. You are about to have a conversation with God. Yes, I know. That's not possible. You probably think or have been taught that's not possible. One can talk to God, sure, but not with God. I mean, God is not going to talk back, right? At least not in the form of a regular, everyday kind of conversation. That's what I thought too. Then this book happened to me. And I mean that literally. This book was not written by me. It happened to me. And in the reading of it, it will happen to you, for we are all led to the truth for which we are ready. I've talked about the fact that I didn't think my Trump rally article was written by me. I think it came through me. And I think that's a very similar experience to what happened here. When I wrote my article, I write all the time. I've been a writer for, 15, almost 20 years, I think. I write all the time. And writing my Trump rally article was a very, very, very different experience for me than it was almost anything else that I've written recently, because it came so easily. I didn't even need to think about it. I didn't even go back and edit it. It came through me because it was a message that the world needed to hear. It was a message that a lot of you needed to hear, and I think that that's part of why it resonated and why people found it so inspiring. And I bring that up because that's what he's talking about here. These were not messages from his perspective that he created. These were messages that came through him because people needed to hear them. He goes on to say, my life would probably be much easier if I had kept all of this quiet, yet that wasn't the reason it happened to me. Oh gosh, can I relate to that? And whatever inconveniences the book may cause me, such as being called a blasphemer, a fraud, a hypocrite for not having lived these truths in the past, or perhaps even worse, a holy man, it is not possible for me to stop the process now, nor do I wish to. I have had my chance to step away from this whole thing, I haven't taken them. I've decided to stick with what my instincts are telling me rather than what much of the world will tell me about the material here. Those instincts to say this book is nonsense, the overworking of a frustrated spiritual imagination, or simply the self-justification of a man seeking vindication from a life misled. Oh, I've thought all of those things, every one of them. So I gave this material to a few people to read while they were still in manuscript form. They were moved and they cried and they laughed for joy, and the humor of it and their lives, they said, changed. They were transfixed. They were empowered. Many said they were transformed. That's when I knew this book was for everyone and that it had to be published. I'm reading this to you because I want you to understand that he thought this was crazy. He thought the idea of him having a conversation with God was crazy. But then the words moved people, the words helped people. And that's when he knew he had to go forward. And so again, believe it, don't believe it, it's entirely up to you. But there is a specific section of this book that I want to take a look at. And let's see, I think I might be oh, there it is. Okay, good. So there's a specific section of this book that I just want to take a look at, because I think that it's very relevant to what we're going through right now, and it's also relevant to the conversation I've been having lately about humor and the place of humor, and maybe some dark humor, and maybe making fun of things that are a little bit offensive, pearl clutching even. But this speaks to that and how I'm thinking about it. So we're going to start at the bottom here. The blue, anything in the blue is God. Anything in the black is the author of the book. He says, I once began writing a book called God is a Salami Sandwich. And God replies, that would have been a very good book. I gave you that inspiration. Why did you not write it? And he says it felt like blasphemy, or at the very least, horribly irreverent. And God replies, you mean wonderfully irreverent. What gave you the idea that God is only reverent? God is the up and the down, the hot and the cold, the left and the right, the reverent and the irreverent. Think you that God cannot laugh? Do you imagine that God does not enjoy a good joke? Is it your knowing that God is without humor? I tell you, God invented humor. Must you speak in hushed tones when you speak to me? Are slang words or tough language outside my ken? I tell you, you can speak to me as you would speak with your best friend. Do you think there is a word I have not heard, a sight I have not seen, a sound I do not know? Is it your thought that I despise some of these while I love the others? I tell you, I despise nothing. None of it is repulsive to me. It is life, and life is the gift, the unspeakable treasure, the holy of holies. I am life, and for I am the stuff life is. Its every aspect has a divine purpose. Nothing exists, nothing, without a reason understood and approved by God. Let's just pause there. Nothing can exist without being approved by God. I firmly believe that what's happening right now, it's happening for a reason. It's happening because it's going to lead us somewhere. It may be painful at the time, but there is all a reason to this. There is all a logic to this. And I think it'll become clear at some point what the logic is. Maybe not to all, but for people that are looking for it, I think that it will absolutely become clear. Let's keep going because there's one more thing in this passage that I want to get to. So the author says, how can this be? What of the evil which has been created by man? God replies, you cannot create a thing, not a thought, an object, an event, no experience of any kind which is outside of God's plan. For God's plan is for you to create anything, everything, whatever you want. In such freedom lies the experience of God being God, and this is the experience for which I created you, and life itself. Evil is that which you call evil. Yet even that I love, for it is only through that which you call evil that you can know good. I'm going to say that again because that one's important. Yet even that I love, for it is only, yet even that, okay, I'm going to start again. Evil is that which you call evil. Yet even that I love, for it is only through that which you may call evil that you can know good. Only through that which you call the work of the devil, that you can know and do the work of God. I do not love hot more than I love cold, high more than low, left more than right. It is all relative. It is all part of what is. I do not love good more than I love bad. Hitler went to heaven. When you understand this, you will understand God. And it's always been that last line that I've thought about that line ever since I read it. I've thought about that line a lot. Hitler went to heaven. When you understand this, you will understand God. That's beautiful. That really is. I mean, you know, some people might find that disturbing to have a book that says Hitler went to heaven, but there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it's that hell doesn't exist. That's part of the philosophy. They talk about that, maybe in this book, maybe in some of the other books he's written, but he definitely talks about this, that hell is a place that humans have created because they do not feel worthy of the love of God. So believe that if you will, but I actually think it's a wonderfully beautiful idea that we are here to experience. That's it. We are here to experience. And every experience gives us a chance to learn and grow because it helps us to experience contrast. Okay? If you have never taken in your life a cold shower, can you ever really appreciate how wonderful and amazing a hot shower is? We learn by contrast. You may have had many hot showers in your life, but man, you take that cold shower the first time, and you are going to experience how glorious that hot shower is. At the same time, if we hadn't had this experience of being in this global pandemic, well, what is the opposite of that? And aren't we going to appreciate our freedom so much more when this is all over? Aren't we going to appreciate all these things that we have? Look, this is already bringing people together. This is bringing together people in very, very, very weird ways. And yes, there'll be pain now, and we're going to have to figure it out, and we're going to have to navigate it. But what if we all come out on the other side a little bit more united? Listen, part of why I put the Trump rally article out there is that I really believe that we need to start taking these steps towards one another. We cannot keep fighting. We cannot keep fighting like this. It is unsustainable. And so what if this big event that is impacting every single one of our lives, literally every single person in the country is being impacted by this? Can you think of another event that has impacted every single person in the world, conceivably, on this very mass scale? Maybe we needed this to push us closer together. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to take those steps towards one another simply because we have no choice and we've been given a common enemy to fight in this virus. When you look at it like that, I think it makes it a little bit easier. It gives me perspective. I mean, listen, me and my family, we're fine. We're very, very lucky. I am not worried one little bit about how this is going to play out financially. We're stable. We have, savings. My husband still has his job. His job is very, very secure. We're fine. But so many people aren't right now. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to come together to help the people that really need it and to take those steps towards one another, put our differences behind us. And I think it's a good thing. Painful. Not something I would have predicted or created necessarily of my own volition, but I think ultimately this will prove to be a good thing and a positive thing for the country. And I have that perspective because of my beliefs. Now, you could think I'm crazy, but hey, most of you believe that a virgin had a baby, and I think that's pretty crazy too.